Good morning. Thank you all for joining. We'll give just a moment to clear the waiting room. Good morning. This is the voting hearing of the licensing board for the city of Boston. Today is Thursday, December 18th, 2025. While the public is encouraged to attend, there will be no additional testimony accepted this morning. Today's hearing is being recorded and will be posted to the City of Boston's website. We'll begin with the license premise inspection hearing, which occurred on Tuesday, December 16th, 2025. Item number one, 175 Ipswich Street LLC, located at 175 Ipswich Street. Date of the incident, October 1st, 2025, assault and battery, patrons on police, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13D.
Thanks, Danny. I don't see any violation here.
I agree.
I agree.
Item two, the same licensee, 175 Ipswich Street LLC at 175 Ipswich Street. Date of the incident, October 6th, 2025. Assault and battery, patron on staff in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A.
I had some concerns about this alcohol compliance company and their use of it and not knowing what led up to this, but I could not get to a violation here.
I saw it the same way. Yeah.
I agree.
No violation. Item three, Mile 22 Inc., doing business as Cityside in the Circle, located at 1958 to 1960 Beacon Street in Brighton. Date of the incident, September 14th, 2025. Assault and battery, the dangerous weapon, a gun, patron on employee, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, Chapter 265, Section 15A.
This is the number three. Okay. I don't think it was foreseeable that this person would pull out a gun. I think he had a lot to drink. I don't know how long he was there, but I wasn't able to get to an assault and battery, so I see no violation.
I agree.
I agree. There could be some correspondence about contact with patron. The video does show that the doorman does push the person, the patron. So maybe there's just correspondence about de-escalation or no
Good
contact.
idea. Sure.
No violation with correspondence regarding de-escalation. Item four, Little Haiti International Cuisine LLC, doing business as Little Haiti International Cuisine, located at 1184 Hyde Park Ave in Hyde Park. Date of the incident, September 20th, 2025. Overcapacity in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Board's Rule 1.03J, 1.06A and F, and patrons fighting outside the establishment in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A.
This is a fairly new licensee. I think he needs to do a better job familiarizing himself with his responsibilities as a license holder. I don't understand how they didn't have a better command of our rules and regulations. He was unclear about his own capacity. He was unclear about what time people had to leave, but I was not able to find a violation for either overcapacity or patrons fighting.
I saw it the exact same way.
Yes, I agree. Whether they need correspondence about our rules, I think just a reminder of reviewing them. I don't know.
That's a good idea. We'll send correspondence again.
Great, then no violation and correspondence regarding their capacity and their closing time. Item number five, licensee did not appear. It will be rescheduled to the next available hearing date. Item number six, 61 Brookline Restaurant LLC, doing business as Loco Taqueria and Oyster Bar, located at 61 Brookline Ave. Date of the incident, October 12th, 2025. Assault and battery, patron on patron, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A.
I see no violation here.
I agree.
I agree.
There was no transactional hearing yesterday. We'll move on to non-hearing transactions. The following are applying for a new common victualler license at a previously licensed location. Item one, Y&Z Business LLC, doing business as Starry Bakery, located at 136 Harvard Ave in Alston. Manager Mengfei Zhu, hours of operation 9 a.m. to 9 p.m.
I vote to approve.
Sorry, I agree.
I agree.
Item 2, Guanlan North Station LLC, doing business as Cafe Nudu, located at 1 Nashua Street. Manager Yu Chen, hours of operation 9 a.m. to 11:30 p.m.
I vote to approve.
I agree.
I agree.
Item 3, Great Taste Bakery and Restaurant Inc., doing business as Great Taste Bakery and Restaurant, located at 61 Beach Street. Manager Chiao Xia Guan, hours of operation 6:30 a.m. to 11 p.m.
I vote to approve.
I agree.
I agree.
Item 4, Xishan Lei, doing business as Mix Some Bakery, located at 36 Beach Street. Manager Lei Xishan, hours of operation 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
I vote to approve.
I agree.
I agree.
And item 5, Grace Westy Inc., doing business as Yeenies, located at 1761 Center Street in West Roxbury. Manager Jason McKinnon, hours of operation 9 a.m. to 9 p.m.
I vote to approve.
I agree.
I agree.
Following have applied to make changes to their existing common victualler licenses. Item 1, Gens Nutra LLC, doing business as Fuful Bakery, 274 Franklin Street, has petitioned to change the capacity from takeout only to 8 seats. They've gotten a certificate of inspection showing the 8 seats.
Vote to approve.
I agree.
I agree.
Item 2, Essential Body Herbs Inc., doing business as Essential Herb and Juice Cafe, located at 501B Washington Street in Dorchester, has petitioned to change the capacity from 19 seats to a takeout only.
I vote to approve.
I agree.
I agree.
And item 3, Holly Crab Boston Inc., doing business as Holly Crab at 1098 Commonwealth Ave, has petitioned to change the closing hour from 11 p.m. to 10 p.m.
I vote to approve.
I agree.
I agree.
Following is applying for an in-holder no alcohol license at a previously licensed location. Colwyn Management Inc., doing business as the Midtown Hotel, located at 220 Huntington Ave. Manager Adam Rabatai.
I vote to approve.
I agree.
I agree.
The following has applied for a one-day amendment to their existing license. Adair Inc., doing business as Ned Divines, located at 2201 Faneuil Hall Marketplace, has applied to extend their license to the contiguous space of the Upper Rotunda of Quincy Market for a wedding reception on December 30th from 6 to 11 p.m.
I vote to approve.
I agree.
I agree.
The board has before them a list of applications for special one-day alcoholic beverage licenses, which have been administratively reviewed by staff for approval by the board.
Okay.
And on old and new business, 4 items. Item number 1 for a vote. The board is in receipt of correspondence from Sugar Bowl Cafe LLC, doing business as the Sugar Bowl, located at 857 Dorchester Ave in Dorchester, requesting approval to increase the capacity from 19 to 46. No construction has taken place. A previously employee-only area has now been repurposed for patron seating, so they've gotten new documents with the increased capacity.
Acknowledged.
To
Approved.
approve the capacity.
Approved.
Approved. Yeah.
Thank you. Item 2 for acknowledgement. The board has received a written dispersal plan that was requested from Facility Concession Services LLC, doing business as Spectrum at 89 Guest Street in Brighton, otherwise known as Roadrunner, as requested by the board on November 20th.
Acknowledged.
Knowledge will be placed on file. Item number 3 for discussion. The board held an informational hearing on October 21st to receive public feedback from licensees regarding Chapter 138, Section 12D, which would permit the board to allow licensees permitted to sell only wines and malt beverages pursuant to Chapter 138, Section 12, to trade in said license and be issued a non-transferable all alcoholic beverages license. Board held an open comment period, which was extended to December 3rd, has now formally closed. This is an opportunity for the board to identify any specific areas to be adopted in draft and final regulations. Chairman, address any comments?
Sure. Excuse me. I appreciate the opportunity to have this discussion on the record. I think the comment period was very helpful to hear from people, businesses, community members, attorneys, about what some of their concerns were with this upgrade opportunity, and what some of their what I see as some really good outcomes from being able to do this. Excuse me. So once the comment period closed, we were able to take a look at the comments that came in and come up with three proposals that I'd like to discuss on the record and to get Commissioner Saxon and Commissioner Carnes input on. The first policy proposal would be whether or not we should have a minimum holding period for beer and wine licensees prior to upgrading. We heard from several people giving real life circumstances of where they thought that this could have unintended consequences to licensees that have held on to licenses or have had licenses for longer period times. One of the things I was taking into consideration was what this would mean for our small neighborhood restaurants, not wanting to create additional barriers to them, but also keeping in mind the fact that I guess what it is, to me, I see two buckets. I see licensee holders that have had beer and wine licenses for a very long time and that are now waiting for this opportunity to upgrade, and then a bucket of licensees that are more speculative that want to go get a beer and wine license and then immediately upgrade to sort of bypass the normal process we have to do so. So trying to find that balance between removing barriers for businesses, but not harming the existing all alcohol licensees and not harming the market too much. So one of the things I had in mind was a grandfathering provision. Anyone that holds a beer and wine license prior to a date that we come up with would be allowed to apply immediately to upgrade. And then anyone after that date would have to hold on to their license for a period of time, let's say like 1 year before they apply for the upgrade. So what are your comments and feedback on that?
Yeah, I think I've stated before, my concern is really trying to react to the private market, which we don't control and we didn't create. And the legislature really, they did this without any encumbrances on it. So I'm somewhat hesitant to put any restrictions on it, even for new people. I'm inevitably the market is going to change with this change. That private market, I don't think we can control people's business decisions as to how much they think the all alc is worth versus the beer and wine. And I don't think we should try to. I don't see a huge difference though for waiting a year. I'm not like 100% against it. I'm just not naturally inclined for it. I could be convinced either way. I'm kind of on the fence, but those would be my concerns for putting, like a year on it. I mean, I don't think it would be the end of the world for any new person picking up a beer and wine to have to wait a year. But also I don't see a great benefit to it either. So it might not be necessary, it might be like a tiny difference maker in the market, which once again, I'm hesitant to try to put my thumb on. So those are my concerns.
I think when we talk about like the possible intention behind the upgrade, the ability to upgrade, I think it's about being able to help businesses, but then also that there's a public need for it. I think public need is sort of embedded or should be embedded in the ability to upgrade. So once there's a public need that has been established for beer and wine, I think it makes the case automatically, at least in my mind, that there would be a market for additional options. So I don't think I'm I don't think I'm against the being able to require new businesses to hang on to their beer and wine for a year to establish a certain amount of record or proof that they're eligible for the upgrade. And I don't mean eligible in the legal sense, but in the kind of, I guess they've established that there's a need for it.
So it sounds like, I mean, I think we all take our role seriously. We realize we have a responsibility to find that public need in all circumstances. Whether we come down with a bright line of 1 year or we build in some regulatory flexibility, like we always try to do anyways without it being written down, is something we can still continue to talk about. But I would like to get this process going for those that already hold beer and wine licenses. I do think, you know, we should move judiciously with the automatic upgrade for anyone after, I don't know, let's say the first of January 1st, 2025. I think maybe we could try to find some language, draft language, Danny. We can work with Danny to come up with language that gives us the discretion in those special circumstances, but maybe we start with like, a presumption of, what would the presumption be? Like, no, that you can't upgrade right away, but if you show us special circumstances, um, I'm kind of like getting back to the opposite of what Commissioner Curran was saying, but I do think this is an opportunity for us to sort of like see how this all shakes out. And again, yes, if someone has public need for beer and wine, do they have the public need for all alcohol? To be determined, but probably yes. We also want to make sure they're able to, it's going to come with a lot more cost too. Um, Per seat cost, insurance costs. So I want the business owner to realize what they're getting into when they decide to do this as well. And again, not to just speculate in the market, um, and assume that it's going to be the golden ticket for them to succeed. So we'll put together some language that we can vote on, but I think we've been able to flesh that one out. Um,
Thank you.
and
Just to see if I can parrot that back really quickly. It sounds like we're looking for language that does establish that any beer and wine holder, a license holder who has held that license since January 1st of 2025, can absolutely apply immediately to move forward with an application. For others, the board is looking for language that allows some discretion, flexibility to find public need for an upgrade for license holders who have not held their license for a full year. Does that sound right?
that sounds about right. Yeah.
Okay. Sure, we'll go to that next. We're gonna move on to the next one.
So one of the things we were asked to consider was whether or not we would put in policy that would have a minimum time that someone has to stay at a location following an upgrade before they can transfer. Um, I think the policy comes from a place, or the proposal comes from a place of they don't want to see someone that has opened up a business in one of our neighborhoods is now able to upgrade and then move to an already saturated area, whether it's downtown or the seaport. So I think that's a concern that has been expressed to us. I don't know if we can actually regulate something like that in a way that is fair to a business. There's all these variables about why someone would want to move. I think we could come up with a policy that we have a strong preference that someone stays in their location. That we would want, I had written down some ideas here. We do something similar on the cannabis side where if there's a buffer zone, we can pierce the buffer zone if someone shows, circumstances that are special or that are exceptional. So for this one, I would have a hard time coming up with a bright line a number of years, but I could come around to some language where there was a presumption that they could not transfer the location unless they demonstrated an exceptional public need, or this new desired location is in great need of this type of license. And again, in my opinion, that's what we do when we hear these applications before the board. We ask those probing questions. What are your intentions? Is there a need for this location to change? Is this just going to be for you to immediately move to another part of the city. I think the request for this policy consideration comes from a place of they want these licenses to stay in particular neighborhoods to see growth there.
Okay, so when when these licenses are upgraded, they become non-transferable, right? And that is in ownership and in location, is that right?
That is an ownership.
Only as an ownership. Okay. Um, so they wouldn't be in order to change locations, they wouldn't be required to do the downgrade, and then they would only be required to do a downgrade if they were changing ownership, right?
That's correct. So to change, it would be an application for a change of location. What Chairman Joyce is saying is whether there should be additional regulations for someone doing a change of location. But as the legislation is written, that's not required.
Yeah. Um, and so something you said, Madam Chair, before, which is essentially when we're dealing with public need for like a beer and wine, and then the idea of public need to go to all alcohol. I think in practice, it's a very limited circumstance where we're going to say that in a particular location, there's public need for beer and wine, but not public need for all alcohol,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
so if we're approving any move, the circumstance of a difference between those two licenses will be very fact specific and very limited, right?
Yes, like someone in a conversation I had said, there may not be the need for another American pub in, I don't know, insert neighborhood, Brighton or South Boston, but there might be a public need for an Ethiopian cafe in South Boston. And so we have to look beyond maybe the category of the license and take a look at the concept. And I think we do that every day in our roles.
But by the same token, but with the same example, it's hard to imagine that there wouldn't be. We would say, oh, there's not a public need for another American pub in this area with an all out, but we would accept another American pub with only beer and wine, right? Because that's really what we're dealing with here, not whether
Yeah,
a restaurant with any alcohol deserves to be in a particular location, but whether the distinction between their all alcohol or beer and wine should be
yeah. I guess
scrutinized.
going back towards the intent of the legislation at the state level was to help our neighborhoods grow and not like cluster these restaurants in certain areas. And again, I don't want to get in the way of an American dream to succeed and to be that, small business owner that's now able to open up a new location in the Seaport or wherever downtown. But and I don't think that's our role is to get in the way of business growing. But I guess we don't want to see all these licenses from the neighborhoods like flood the downtown market. So what do we do? And again, these may not become an issue we have to ever deal with because when someone does get a license in the neighborhood, oftentimes they're tied to a lease that they can't get out of anyways. It's not like it's a letter of intent, get your license open, and go for it. Like there's usually more of a commitment there. But those are the concerns. I think the policy behind the legislation is to help the neighborhoods grow.
Yeah.
We've never had like a policy mandate that we look at public detriment, of losing a license in a particular neighborhood. We've only looked at the public need of a license being added to a particular neighborhood. So I mean, it would be really disappointing if we finally got, a couple of licenses in Mattapan and then they abscond with them and go to the North End. I mean, I think that, but I think we look at the North End then. We look at just to see whether adding yet another license in the North End makes sense. So I don't think that I think in the end, looking at public need, I think on balance, um, would enable us to come to the right decision without having to look at public detriment. But you know, as we do, it is on a case by case basis. So I'm not sure that there's a bright line that we can add.
All right, again, we'll draft something to be voted on.
Great. It sounds like we're really looking at the public need of any upgraded licensee trying to change location.
But the other concern, I think, is, and I agree with Commissioner Saxon, that, it makes sense to look at the detriment of like having a license leave, but a lot of times that the person selling that license or moving that license from the neighborhood is telling us that it hasn't worked where they were. That gets into like us regulating more business decisions than public needs. So it, once again, drafting new regulations could hem us in where our public need analysis really is adequate. So that's my fear.
Understood. That makes sense to me.
Great. The last policy proposal has to do with community process. For those that have applied and already gone through a community process for an all alcohol license, we've had a number of applications from restaurants that did not qualify for our zip code restricted licenses, North End in particular, that would like to take advantage of the upgrade immediately, and whether or not we should require another community process. My thinking is no. I think anyone who's applied for an all alcohol license in the last 2 years does not need to go back for an additional public meeting. I think the impacts are the same, and those are things we discussed when those things were discussed with the community the first time around.
Yeah, I think from our perspective, that's an easy answer that we wouldn't require it. But public need is usually, or public process is usually dictated by the mayor's office as well. Like the applicant reaches out to the mayor's office and they're told what they want from them. But I think from our perspective, I wouldn't be asking for something like, 2 years is definitely within a window where everything's been, as long as the proposal's really no different. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that neighborhoods shift that quickly. So I agree.
That's clear. We'll make sure that language includes that any applicant who has applied for an alcohol license within the past 2 years would not need any additional community process required by this board to apply for an upgrade of that same license. Anything further on upgrade draft regulations from Chairman Joyce or Commissioner Cohen or Saxon?
I'd like to work on these in the next couple of weeks and have something for us to consider in writing for January.
Perfect. We can do that to have a draft for review by the board and possible approval if we can get there for the January 8th voting hearing. Thank you all. Moving on, if there's nothing further on this discussion, we'll move on to item number 4, the final item of this morning's agenda, which is a discussion and deliberation by the board on applications for new unrestricted on-premise all alcoholic beverages licenses. The board has a list of all applications which were submitted and complete prior to the December 6th, 2024 and May 23rd, 2025 application deadlines. With that, I'll turn it over to Chairman Joyce for any additional comments.
Just a quick recap. I mean, we all know the legislation created these 12 new unrestricted all alcohol licenses. And they were created, and I think our intention was to phase them over a span of 3 years. Last year, we had a discussion on the record, and we came to the conclusion that the unrestricted licenses should also be issued, not all at once, but over a period of time, so as not to flood the market. And to be able to respond to the changing market conditions throughout the city. So today, I find public need to issue 3 unrestricted all alcohol licenses, and I do anticipate that we will issue the remainder of them in the coming year. In determining public need today, I want to focus on how these licenses would be put to use, or I'm choosing to focus on how these licenses will be put to use, the role they establish in their neighborhoods, and whether the license advances our broader goals of vibrancy, balance, and responsible operation. The 3 applications I'd like to vote on reflect different neighborhoods, different concepts, and different community needs, but all demonstrate a thoughtful, intentional use of these unrestricted all alcohol licenses. I think the concepts complement each of the 3 neighborhoods, and with that framework, I will briefly summarize the applications that I propose we consider today. The first application would be for Grace Note at 108 Lincoln Street, which is in the Leather District. We heard this at a public hearing on June 25th. This is an established cafe concept in the Leather District with a demonstrated record of community engagement through curated listening room programming. The applicant proposes a limited all alcohol service to complement a music-focused seated experience with no late night bar operations and a midnight closing time. I believe the proposed use supports downtown workers and visitors, enhances the cultural offerings of the area, and allows the business to operate more efficiently without reliance on one-day licenses, consistent with the intent of the legislation. I don't know if you have any comments about that application.
I second everything you said, and want to add that just even the geographical location, that there's not as many licensees right in that Leather District area, so even another reason to favor this application. So I agree.
I agree with all said.
Thank you. So Danny, do we have to make a motion?
Yeah, is there a vote to approve this license?
I vote to approve.
I do as well.
I agree.
Unrestricted all alcohol license granted to Coffee LLC, doing business as Grace Note Coffee, Boston.
All right, the second application I'd like us to consider today is Merengue Express at 1415 Tremont Street in Mission Hill, which we heard at a public hearing on June 25th. This is a neighborhood serving, this is a restaurant serving the neighborhood of Mission Hill, seeking to enhance the dining experience through alcohol service that's complementary to its Latin-inspired menu. The applicant has been actively involved in the community and has stated clearly that the license is not intended to support late night or bar-centric use. I find public need based on the establishment's role in the Mission Hill Business District, its community support, and its contribution as an anchor restaurant in this Roxbury Crossing area. Do you guys have any comments about this application?
Just to second everything you said, and note that it is right on the T-stop, which I think is another good thing about the location.
I agree.
So I would vote to approve this application.
I do as well.
I agree.
Unrestricted all alcohol license is approved for Cilantro Kitchen, Latin Kitchen Corp., doing business as Merengue Express.
The final application I'd like to consider today is Comfort Collective at 100 Western Ave in Alston, which was heard at a public hearing on July 16th. The owners of Comfort Kitchen are opening a location in a new Alston development. These are the same owners as the Comfort Collective is proposed by the owners of Comfort Kitchen. The application reflects an expansion of a proven community-oriented concept into a growing neighborhood area. I find public need based on the location, the applicant's demonstrated experience and track record, and the role the establishment is expected to play in supporting the neighborhood and its vitality as part of this new development. Do you have any comments to add?
Nothing to add, just second everything you've said.
Yeah, the traction has been clear. Didn't they get some sort of nomination or something?
James Beard?
Yeah, there we go. Yes.
Thank you.
New York Times too, right? I'm assuming, I think. Yeah, among others.
So I would vote to approve.
I agree.
I agree.
And unrestricted all alcohol license is approved for the Comfort Collective LLC, doing business as AMA.
And so I would like, now that we are talking about these applications, and I would propose that we set a new deadline for the next round of applications, and I'd like to propose January 16th. Any application that was submitted between May 23rd, Danny, is that correct?
May 23rd was the last deadline, correct?
And then we would close the deadline at January 16th, and we would immediately start to vote on those applications.
Sounds good. Thank you.
I agree.
Next application deadline will be January 16th, and the board can consider applications as soon as that deadline passes. Anything further from the board on any of these items that we've discussed today? There being none, those are all the items before the board today that will adjourn this hearing, this being our last hearing of the year. Happy holidays, and we'll see you all in the new year. Thank you all.
Happy holidays. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy
Take care.
holidays.